let's get straight to it. We'll start with a wee flick through of January. One thing that I did with the January cover is I've utilised an old painting that I did a few years ago, and I actually decided that because I do a lot of painting for worship and outside of that, I'm gonna use or try to use one of the paintings that I do each month as my cover or part of the theme, and go from there. I did end up incorporating a little bit of washi tape for the edges, which just matched those Tombow colours, and then also did a couple of spreads during our prayer and worship week at church. Getting into February, this is the painting that I did. You can see a little bit of the shimmer in the gold there. This was a piece that I painted during worship on a Sunday service last year, and I just love the colours so much, and I couldn't bear to get rid of it. So I'm so glad that I've been able to use it in my journal this year. I decided that I'm going to pair the painting and colour scheme with this beautiful knitted nettles Ferris wheel press ink and my wooden stamps, and the contrast between the sharp letters and the free flowing of the watercolour just worked really, really well. And the knitted nettles has this beautiful deep green base with pink shimmer, which just works so perfectly with this piece. So that is the cover page done. On to this month's calendar. And these are the Tombow colours that I'm using, which I've pulled colours from the cover, as you can see. I was debating which setup to do, but I decided that I would go with my diagonal monthly setup, so that meant that I could play with some watercolour paint, and I'm doing the wet on wet effect, so that is where you wet your paper first and then using obviously wet paint. It just has a lot more movement to it and can create a lot more dynamic structure. So, and I wanted to kind of match that cover page throughout this month's setup, so that's why I will be moving the book around a lot, just to kind of help encourage that flow of the watercolour paint on the page and a bit of the splatter effect, so that I could carry the colours through and just let it be a bit more organic in how all the colours come together. I wasn't quite sure how the paper would handle the watercolour paint, but it actually did quite well. It's definitely not as thick as paper that I would usually use, but it did also help having that cover page stuck to the back there, so it was a little more durable. Obviously doing watercolours also meant that I had to wait for it to dry, so that's why I jumped to the habit tracker on this page and just getting that set up while I waited for the paint to dry, so then I could also add a heading to the orange down in the bottom corner. Stuck with the sticker and monthly log style setup for my habit trackers instead. I found this to work really well for me in January, so I wanted to bring that in again for this month. I did swap the setup around slightly and having the labels down the bottom of the page. In hindsight, I think they do work better at the top of of the setup, so I will go back to that for next month, but it was a good learn and nice to just mix it up for this month. I just love these stamps and the paint together. It works so well. Setting up the months, the weekends there, I realised that I accidentally coloured in or ruled an extra line, so I did just have to go in and fix that up. But that was easy enough, just with a bit of extra paper, and I just wanted to split the sections. So that is our monthly spread done, and moving on to the dashboard. I really enjoyed having the dashboard set up like I did in January, so I wanted to bring that back across this month. But love being able to use the TOMBOWs as a form of paint instead. With them being water-based, it meant that by adding water I could get the same effect that I would with my paints, and that was really helpful, being able to use the pens for the box frames and headings so that I could keep my colour palette as consistent as possible, which I'll be using those colours throughout the rest of the month. So that was a really cool win. I haven't done that before, so we'll absolutely be using that trick down the line. I did use a combination of paint and the Tombow pens because I've got a gold metallic watercolour paint, so that has been used on the spreads just because it is a beautiful, rich, deep colour. I did swap the order of the boxes though, and last month I had the prayers in the full page length one, which I'm just labeling now, but I ended up swapping that with my to-dos so that I've got a bit more room to work with for those instead, and then moving my prayer list down the bottom there. And then again I'm doing a running gratitude page for February, so instead of a reflective month that was like I did last year, this year I am doing a gratitude page which I can fill in throughout the month that we're in, which I think will be really helpful just to stay present, as sometimes it was a little bit hard to kind of be looking back. Now just make sure that doesn't transfer. One of the downsides of using paint or water just mean that you need to be a little bit more careful, but again just using that Tombow to get the paint effect, and I did add a little bit of the ink to just pull a little bit more depth to it, as well as some of my paints for the splatters to bring in some colour in the pink and orange and gold. So this one did have to take a little bit longer to dry, so I did just let that sit for a bit and then come back to it. Again, using the stamps for my scripture heading. This will be my scripture collection, and again using the devotionals that I do each month to inspire the scripture and the daily verse that I catalogue or save in these spreads. So I will do a second spread for my scriptures, but because this one did take a little while to paint, I didn't want to worry about that in this video, but I ended up using pink for my second spread, which was really nice and bright. have it February done with cover, our monthly log and habit tracker, our monthly dashboard and gratitude, and our scripture collection. Thank you so much for joining me for this month. Happy journaling. And that is the spread done. So there you can see the gold metallic paint just shimmering in the light.